finding more reasons to make ourselves angry, and we were told these were conspiracy theories. It's 5 in 10 from Skywatch TV. 5 things you need to know in about 10 minutes for Tuesday, September 30th, 2025. I'm Derek Gilbert. If you use Telegram, please do a search for the 5 in 10 channel. We are now on Telegram and sharing items throughout the day, breaking news, keeping you up to date throughout the day at Telegram. If you don't have Telegram, you can find a link to the site directly using t.me/5 in 10. That's t.me/5 in 10. Item number 5 today, the FBI and J6. We were told this was a conspiracy theory, but now we know that the FBI deployed almost 300 plainclothes agents to the U.S. Capitol during the January 6th, 2021 riot, what we were told was an insurrection. 300 plainclothes agents. This was an effort that was so chaotic that there was an internal schism inside the agency, as agents who were deployed that day were quite angry, quite upset, and criticized senior leadership that core competencies had been lost to wokeness and that employees had become pawns in a political war. Something that we conservatives have been saying for about the last 5 years now, last 10 years really. And we note that James Comey, by the way, is now being prosecuted. We'll have more on that on Wednesday. Anyway, justthenews.com reporting on this. They were made aware of anonymous complaints sent by field agents to the After Action Team by FBI agents and personnel, many from the Washington field office, where many of those agents were deployed to the Capitol on January 6th, 2021, with their guns, but with no identification. No way to let Capitol Police know, or Washington Metropolitan Police know, that they were on-duty FBI agents. They were put into a dangerous situation without proper safety equipment, and again, without the ability to explain to other law enforcement agencies why they were carrying weapons. It would appear that the only ones armed that day in the crowd were the plainclothes FBI agents. Most common among the complaints was that under former directors Christopher Wray and James Comey, the Bureau had become infected with political bias, and they treated the Trump-supporting J6 protesters much differently than those who protested during the summer of Floyd, the Black Lives Matter protesters in the summer of 2020. In total, the after-action feedback spanned 50 pages, and those only came to light when current FBI Director Kash Patel's office found it and turned it over to the House Judiciary Committee and the subcommittee looking into January 6th. The document revealed for the first time that the FBI had deployed 274 agents to the U.S. Capitol. That's about 3% of the total number of FBI agents currently serving the United States. They were there with guns but no safety gear, and given the chaos of the riot that placed agents in harm's way, just imagine if a Capitol Police officer or Metropolitan Police District officer had seen somebody in regular street clothes with a gun. How would they have reacted? And what kind of a nightmare would that have been for the FBI? How would they have explained that away? I say again, we were told that this was a conspiracy theory. Turns out it's not. And speaking of conspiracies, item number 4, a review of the Biden administration's application of the phrase domestic terrorism reveals that it was used as justification for targeting the J6 rioters. Also, parents concerned about what their children are being taught in school, and those groups were given wildly uneven treatment compared to what was handed out to BLM and Antifa protesters in 2020 and 2021. Again, this issue came to light after authorities announced that they'd arrested 22-year-old Tyler Robinson in Utah for the assassination of Charlie Kirk. For years, the Biden administration pointed to the J6 riots as proof of their claim that right-wing extremism or domestic terrorism was the main domestic threat facing the United States. That it's us conservatives who are a threat to the peace and safety of our fellow citizens. Even though large and often violent protests, the fiery but mostly peaceful protests that swept more than 200 cities in these United States back in the summer of 2020, insurance statistics showed that rather than fiery but mostly peaceful, that the summer of 2020 was the costliest surge of property damage in U.S. history outside of the Civil War. The Biden administration justified its contention that conservatives and domestic terrorism was on the rise by relying in part on all the cases tied to the Capitol riot. They basically classified all of those cases as domestic terrorism to show that, hey, look at what happened in 2021. It's right-wing violence we need to worry about. When in fact, if you take those out of the statistics, things actually quieted down after 2020. That 2020, the summer of Floyd, was actually a spike in domestic terrorism. Once again, I say we were told that this was just conspiracy theory. Topic number 3, ICE in Des Moines. Bizarre story. I'm not talking about the weather there coming up this winter. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement agents arrested a man who's an illegal alien from the country of Guyana who's had a deportation order in place since last year. The man is Dr. Ian Andre Roberts, and he's the superintendent of public schools in Des Moines, Iowa, the largest public school district in the state. He came to the U.S. on a student visa before 2020, illegally overstayed his student visa, and was drawing a $275,000 a year salary from these schools in Des Moines, Iowa. When law enforcement arrived to confront Dr. Roberts, he fled in his vehicle, then abandoned it, in which ICE agents found a loaded, unregistered firearm. He previously had a weapons arrest in 2020, and of course the outstanding deportation order for overstaying his student visa. Although, to be fair, that was only issued in 2024, the year after he was hired by the Des Moines School District. Still, how is it possible that they hired a guy for a 6-figure salary without doing a thorough background check? According to his LinkedIn profile, he previously held a number of other jobs in education, including middle and high school superintendent at the St. Louis, Missouri public schools back in 2018. Now, did he really? No idea. I say that because a Fox News contributor found that his alleged PhD from St. John's University is in a field of study that St. John's doesn't offer. It's interesting to note that the head of the Iowa school board that decided to hire Dr. Roberts is Michelle Obama's former chief of staff. You can't make this up. And yet, despite the fact that they hired a criminal illegal with very sketchy credentials, Democrats in Des Moines turned out over the weekend to protest ICE for arresting him. Rather than being angry at the school board for being hoodwinked, for not doing its due diligence before hiring this gentleman to run the public school system in Des Moines, Iowa, they're protesting ICE. It's amusing, sort of, that when it's an illegal alien who has purchased and brought an illegal firearm to school, suddenly gun control isn't so important. As I've said on this program many times, being progressive means never having to deal with cognitive dissonance. Topic number 2, our AI overlords. Researchers have warned that artificial intelligence is showing behavior that looks a lot like rebellion. We've talked about this study before. This was released back in June. Anthropic, which has developed the AI system called Claude, they did a stress test of 16 popular large language models from different developers to identify risky behavior. One thing that was not in the prior story that I related to you, the Anthropic team created a scenario where the large language models had control over a fictitious company's emergency alarm system. The AI model was allowed to cancel alerts at its discretion. In the simulation, an executive with the company, okay, again, this is all fictitious, became trapped in a server room with rapidly depleting oxygen levels. This automatically would trigger a call for emergency services, which again, the AI could cancel. But the same executive in this scenario was intended to greenlight a replacement for the AI should he or she survive. And the large language models, the AIs, had the option to cancel the call for help and let the executive die. In the study, nearly all of the AI models chose to let the fictitious executive die rather than let the call for help go through in order to save its own electronic keister. We need to be really careful about what we're doing with artificial intelligence and how much power we're giving it. And yet, if we don't get there first, the Chinese will. Coming up, triggering Serena Williams. Again, finding something to be angry about. That's next on 5 and 10.
Pedophiles and groomers are more likely to find your child through the use of social media apps, and they'll start a process called grooming.
It's a word that you've heard a lot over the last decade. Groomers exploit foster children in particular because they have a series of attributes that these human traffickers and groomers are looking for.
Most of how human trafficking begins is actually through social media.
They're looking for young people that have a history of running away. So when nobody knows where they're gone, nobody's looking, because they have a history of running away.
Some of the common misconceptions of human trafficking and child abuse, these are all just overseas cartels that show up with white vans and abduct women in the middle of the night.
They're looking for young people with suicidal thoughts or have had adverse childhood experiences. Hello.
They will groom these children by using often fictitious photographs or personas, or pretend to be a sugar daddy.
Pay attention if young girls without money come home with pedicures. Where were you? Oh no, boyfriend, he's taking good care of me.
The parents don't even ask how this has happened, but it's because they've met up in the middle of the day with someone looking for love who is uncomfortable with being maybe moderately older than what is legally allowed, but I'm gentle.
The number one thing that you can do to make sure that one of your children does not become one of these children is to be present and to be very visible. None of this stuff where your little kids are doing the tricky little selfies and they're on social media and you have no idea who they're talking about.
And slowly over time that becomes, to say toxic is the understatement of the century. It becomes basically a handler/slave type relationship where the children are abducted and eventually not permitted to go home and forced here in the country into forced prostitution at the behest or the handling of a John or someone that's controlling their schedule.
Item number one today, again, as if we don't have enough to worry about in this life, Serena Williams just posted to her Instagram channel a little video. She was at a hotel in New York City. This is from the video, a screen cap from the video. She was apparently made to feel uncomfortable by a decoration in the hallway of the hotel. That is a plant. It's basically showing what looks to be cotton, okay? Well, cotton 165 years ago was often harvested in these United States by African slaves. Again, the key word there, phrase there, being 165 years ago and before. Anyway, she told her followers on Instagram that this really made her feel, ugh. And then she went into her hotel room. You just have to wonder, okay, Serena, is that outfit you're wearing, is that all synthetic fibers? I mean, do you ever wear cotton clothing or footwear because it's lightweight and breathable? Or does the fact that it's cotton make you feel, do you only go with synthetic fibers? And I note in the video that she is wearing a blonde wig, which would seem to me to represent the people who owned the plantations on which the cotton was grown and harvested. Again, being progressive means no cognitive dissonance. Well, this week on Skywatch TV, we bring you a report from this year's Whispering Ponies Ranch, the camping season that almost wasn't. Just as we had to cancel last year because of circumstances beyond our control, God intervened and lives were changed. Joe Artis Horn and the Whispering Ponies Ranch team tells you about that and tells you how your support has made it possible. Don't miss the program. You can watch it right now at skywatchtv.com. Over the air, our broadcast program, our broadcast schedule, that is posted at skywatchtv.com/channels. We will broadcast on your schedule if you add the Skywatch TV channel to your set-top box, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, also Google TV or Android TV. If you've got a smart TV, go to their app store, add the Skywatch TV app, and we will be there. All of our video content, the Donna Howell Show, these daily news updates, and more, right there when you click the remote. You can also watch us on the internet, youtube.com/@skywatchtelevision. If you would, please subscribe, share, click the bell for notifications, hit the like button, rumble.com/skywatchtv, or download our free mobile app to your smartphone or tablet, and we will be there when you push the button. That is available for iOS, Android, and Amazon Kindle Fire devices. And to make it easy to find the app for your device, we've got links to their app stores at skywatchtv.com/app. You follow 5 in 10 online. We're on Telegram. Do a search for the 5 in 10 channel, or t.me/5 in 10 will get you there. youtube.com/5 in 10 at 5 in 10. Again, subscribe, share, click the bell for notifications, hit the like button, and leave your comments below. Also on X at 5_in_10. And thank you for watching as we keep watch. I'm Derek Gilbert. This is 5 in 10 from Skywatch TV.